Alright, in this video we're now gonna start adding some drag events on our swiper element. Now if you remember, in this chapter we actually installed a package called hammer.js. It is one that's gonna help us deal with interactions relating to drag and drop events. So to get started, let's go back to our code. In here we can go to the element which has x data. In here I'm gonna add another attribute called x init. For those of you who don't know, this is just an Alpine attribute which is used to run whenever the page is loaded, whenever the element is successfully rendered. So here in x init, inside here let's get the element first of all. Element is equals to L. This is also comes with Alpine just to get the current element. Let's store it in here. After that, here we have to initialize hammer.js. Down here let's create a variable, let's call it hammer time, or we can call this one new hammer. Right, for this one we can put this element inside here. Now since we've already imported hammer.js in our app.js, so it should be available here. Right, down here let us make this pan gesture to support all directions. Alright, this is going to be, let's now use this hammer time that we just added here. Now be hammer time dot get. Here we can say pan. Here let's set this to, here we can say open bracket close. Let's add some curly brackets inside, and here it's going to be direction. Let's call it hammer dot, in capital letters, direction underscore o, the comma, touch action. We can add a pan. Now this is just going to help us add directions that can be scrolled up, down, left, right. You can research more about hammer.js. It's actually a very good package. Hopefully this video can help you get started with this package. Okay, now let's create a listener which is going to be triggered whenever this element starts to be dragged or is being dragged. So for that we can call the hammer time again, hammer time dot on pan. We can just create a function. Let's add event here. I'm gonna use this. After that, let's add some curly brackets. Here, add a semicolon in the end. Alright. Just in case you're wondering how I'm adding these comments, you can just press Command KC or Control KC on Windows, I think. But yeah, it's gonna help you create comments, these blade comments. Right, inside here, we're now gonna start setting our values. So if we start dragging this element, we have to set this element up here is swiping to true. So here let's say is swiping true. Here we're gonna check if the event dot delta is equals to 0, then we're just gonna return nothing. Now if in case you're wondering, what does delta x mean? Delta x is just used to, it's used to identify the position of the element being dragged. Okay, it can either be positive or negative. Think of it like an x and y plane. From the initial position we can drag left or right. It's going to indicate a negative or a positive value. So for now it's just going to check if the value is 0 after being dragged, which means if the element is returned to its initial position after being dragged around, then we're just going to return nothing. So also going to check if event.center.x is equals to 0 and event.center.y is also equals to 0, and then that's going to return nothing again. Alright, this is just some pure JavaScript here in order for us to create these events. Alright, after that, now let's check if this element is swiped right or left. Let's create that condition. So here, swiped right. And you're gonna check if the event.delta x, this one, or if it is greater than 20, which means if it is dragged to the positive in relation to its current position. which means this element is swiped right. And in here I'm gonna say swiping right. Let's set this to true. Here I'm copying from here just to avoid any typos. Here swiping right, true. The swiping left is going to be false, and then swiping up is going to be false. I hope you understand here. If the element is being swiped to the right, which means we're going to set this one swiping right to true. If it is left, now we're going to check for if it is left. Else, if this one event the delta x is less than -20, which means it is swiped to the left. So here let's just copy these. Okay, make sure just add this to true to know what it stands for. And down here, let's remove that. This means swiped left. Alright, then we're gonna set swiping left to true here. Let's add another else if this delta, actually here it's going to be delta y, since swiping up is going to be super like swipe here, swiped up. If delta y is less than -50, then also here let's check and, because you know it might be like just swipe up a little bit, you don't want to activate the super like, you want to make sure that the user is kind of, you know, a little bit like in the range. So here I'm gonna check event dot delta x is less than 20. Okay, for this part let's just add one more thing here. Let's wrap this here. Click Control C there. Let's add math dot abs. Here, abs. Put that inside there. This, the math dot absolute, the full word here is absolute. Now, this what it does is that it just gets the absolute value of the number. If it is negative or positive, it will always make the value positive. Alright, if it is less than 20 here, which means if it is within, not, you know, very much left or right, otherwise it will go to these ones. If that condition is true, then let's copy this. Let's remove this one to false, this one to true. Actually here, only one should be true. I almost forgot that. Make sure there's one true here, one true in here, and here, one true. So make this one false. Alright, now if we go and check, let's go to our, now here let's try to drag this. You see I drag to the left, it's saying nope. I go to the right, it's saying like, and if I go up, saying super like, as you can see. Now it's working correctly, like that. Let me just refresh again. Here you see if I drag left, right, and up, it's working. And it's only showing one each time. Yes. So let's now continue, because now as you can see we are dragging this, but it is not moving. Okay, it's not moving because in order for it to move, it won't just move automatically unless we put the drag feature, but we don't want to use that for now. So we have to update the position of this element as we drag it. So we're going to do that next. So now after that, let's go back in here. In here, let's get the rotation degree, rotate, because we don't want to just drag the element randomly. We want to drag it in the most stylish way. So here, let's say variable rotate equals to event dot delta x. Let's say divided by 10. Alright, now here let's apply transformation, because we want to transform the element so we can update its current position based on how we scroll. So here let's click apply. And here we can say event dot target. This target is used to get the element being dragged. Here dot style. Want to edit the style for the element. We can say transform. Yes, is equals to, here put some quotes, single quotes. Here say translate the open bracket without the close, because we're going to add some elements inside. Yeah, because we're going to prepend or rather append some elements. So here add the plus sign. Let's get event. Want to update the transform it to the current position of how we've dragged it. Dot x here plus single quotes there px. After the px here add a comma. I add a comma and then they add another plus. Here let's say event dot delta y. Want to update it in the y, in the x and y position. And after the comma is now the y. It's going to be plus the px. They add the closing bracket, which we opened here. It's going to close right there. All right. So here, this translate is only getting two values. Okay, it's going to come something like here. The first value is the x. You can see a comma here. Second value is the y. So here we're updating the translate according to this delta x and y. Now if we go and try, let's refresh the page. Now if we try to move, okay, this should move. So let's check why it's not. Here, oh yeah, here, please make sure that you don't leave any spaces before here, otherwise it's not gonna, work. Even here, don't leave a space before this and the pixel. But yeah, make sure you remove all the spaces. Okay, like that. So now if you go, let's refresh that. Now if you try to drag, awesome. Now it's dragging, as you can see. It's now updating the values as we scroll. Now if we leave it there, it's not pulling back. We're gonna work on that later. But for now you can see it's moving correctly. Now let's just add one more thing. In here you can see we added this rotate just by dividing it by 10, the value. So now let's check what this rotate does. Here in the end, after the px, in here let's go ahead and add something like rotate open bracket. There let's add a single quote so we can divide it. In here let's add a value. Let's say plus rotate, again plus single quote again degrees. Make sure there's no space here, just avoid any errors. And now if we go, let's check out how it's looking like. Here if I scroll, awesome. Now you can see it's now, if you scroll, it will automatically go down like in a clockwise and anti-clockwise direction, which is good. So now it's moving more like the actual Tinder. If we scroll here, nope. Like, if I go up, it will go to super like. So this is awesome. Right now, if we leave it, it's not really, you see, I've stopped dragging it, but it's still in the same position. So in the next video, let's now go and add a pullback feature, whereby if we leave it here, it's going to actually just pull back in the original direction. So I think that's it for this video. I'll see you guys in the next one.